Hello, everyone. So this session is aimed to how do you create IWInterpreter, which is a WAR file, and run it as a Windows service without the need of having a web application server. Predominantly, what we do is the likes of Tomcat or JBoss, right? So all this while we have a Tomcat or a JBoss server, you have this interpreter WAR file, and you go and deploy it over there. Now, what do you do in cases customer doesn't allow a Tomcat to be installed or any other web application server? So the prerequisite for this is to have JDK installed on that server, minimum JDK 8. Once you have that, I already have it. I'll also go and show you where you can find JDK 8. It's predominantly you can go to C drive, you can go to your program files, go to Java. And if there are multiple versions of JDK, you will find it over here. And this way you can ensure that your JDK is there. If you need to say a JDK is set in home in your Java home, you can go to your command prompt and just type Java -version. You'll get to see the version of the Java which is installed, which is JDK 1.8. You can even do echo %Java home, which will basically tell you your Java home path, right? So, and you can just type in Java as well. So it'll, if Java is installed, it'll actually show you all the help commands over here and Java C as well, right? So it's basically your Java is installed, your JDK is installed, you're good to go, right? So that's the main prerequisite. Once you have that, let's dig into how do you create this as a Windows service. So for that, you need these files. You can ignore the README text. README text is the one which I've been showing you, which is the help file over here. The most important file is the jar file, the self-running jar file. The objective of this jar file is it's a executable jar, and this jar basically embeds a Tomcat. It takes the WAR file, it creates a temporary folder, extracts the WAR, and runs the WAR in the embedded Tomcat. There's an SVC folder. Now inside the SVC folder, you'll see a couple of things. You can, one of the important one is the config file over here. You open the config file. One of the parameters that you see is working directory. You can keep it as it is. There's no need to change this. You have the image path. The image path is predominantly the JDK path, which points to the Java exe. What I just showed you right now, just go to the path and point the java.exe over here. The args is basically, because it's an executable jar, it will execute this command, java-jar, and then the jar file name. If your jar file is not in this location, you can mention the exact path of this file, whether it's E drive, whether it's D drive, and then you'll have subfolders in that. You can mention it over here. I have mentioned dot over here. It's because my jar file is in the same location as SVC. If yours is on the same location, you need not touch this. You can just close this, and this file, we are good to go with this file, right? This jar file, if you need to change, there are a couple of things in this. You can open this jar with the WinRAR or even extract it, and then probably you can zip it again. The most important file is this interpreter self-host properties. You can open this up in a Notepad++. You can see the server port over here. If you want to chain this, you can just chain this, save this file. If your interpreter WAR file is in a separate folder, separate file, separate path altogether, you can chain the path as well. You save it, you close this, and it'll ask you whether you want to have this modified property file back into the archive. You say yes, and then it gets updated back. And you just open this and see once again whether it's changed. And I can see that my port which I changed from 8980 to 8989, it's still there. You close this, come back to this, and close this WAR file itself, right? Which is done. Now, the other thing is the WAR file itself. Again, I will have a different video done on the IWInterpreter web app WAR. The important part of this is you can open it up with let me just close this, and then okay, right? You open this again with the WinRAR, or you can extract it, and I'll just show you a couple of things in this WAR file. One of the most important property file in this is, if you go inside web INF, it's go inside classes, there is something called IWInterpreter properties. You open that up, and it basically the most important path would be this, which is the JSON flow files path. I'll have a different video where it'll take you through each of the property file and what each of them means. But the most important one is this one, which says where is the path of the JSON flow files. If you have a different path, you can change this path, again, save it and put it back into the war, and then the war will be good to go. Once you have this, the next step that you got to do is open the command prompt and open it with an administrator rights, right? So I have the command prompt over here, open it with an administrator rights, and it's opened over here. So the first thing that you've got to do is create a Windows service with this name, and the path is pointed to the exe. Now, what is this exe? You go back in over here, you go into this folder, and this is the exe, right? So wherever is that, you just basically point the path to that exe, right? So I have it over here. I just copy this and come and put it over here, right? I run this, it says create service success. If you see something like you do not have access or access denied, just open the command prompt in an administrator mode. Service is created. Let's go and see whether the service is created or not. You're going to run, type services.msc. Once you do that, this opens up. Go and see, just type in IW and it'll take you there. And you can see that there is a service which gets installed, right? Now, let's run the service. So once you run the service, if you notice over here, there'll be certain changes into this folder. A temp folder gets created. As I mentioned, this jar will run an embedded Tomcat. It'll take this war file from here, put it into a temp folder, and then extract the war file, right? If you go inside SVC, it'll also open up this installer.log. It'll actually tell you all the details over here. It basically tries to print my war file path and all, whether the war file path is all correct. You come down and it's still loading the war file, right? So if you see some of these things, at least your interpreter is loading, right? You're good to go with that. And then probably we'll see whether the interpreter has loaded successfully or not, right? So you keep refreshing and just wait till the interpreter loads. It basically is opening up all the all the flow files. And again, if you look at this folder structure, there's a folder which gets created logs. These logs are for the interpreter logs. You open this up, you open the log file. And if you notice, it is actually loading all the JSON flow files and whatever is available over here, right? If you see some of these exceptions, probably I'll have a different video to tell you that some of these exceptions are okay because it is looking at some of the JSON flow files, which in some cases, even if it's not, that it's fine. You can come way down and it says app start success, right? When you see app start success, it means the interpreter is loaded successfully. You go back to installer log and it actually will tell you that Tomcat has started on port 8989. Now, how do you check this? You go back to the readme.txt and there is a path over here. So if you copy and execute this method in your browser, in your local browser, it'll actually tell you whether the interpreter is successfully launched or not, or right? So you hit this, and if you notice what it says success, IWInterpreter, this is the version number, is running on, this is the host name. This is my Windows host name along with my IP address, and what is the default channel, right? As I mentioned, I will take you through a different video which explains the properties in this property file of interpreter. If you want to see if all your flow files are loaded or not, just open up the index.html over here. It's not a good looking HTML, but serves the purpose. You can actually just click on below. There are certain button called load prop. When you click load prop, it actually loads the entire interpreter property file for you. When you click on get flow master config, it'll actually show you all the flow masters config which are there over here, right? So this means you're good to go. Your interpreter's done. Your interpreter is running on port 8989, and localhost is basically it's running on the same server. Yeah. So that's more on running. How do you run IWInterpreter as a Windows service without the need of deploying, without the need of having a Tomcat or a JBoss, and you can run Windows as interpreter as a Windows service. If you want to stop, just go back over here. ensure if you want to make it into an automatic mode, go to the properties and make the start type as automatic or delayed automatic, right? If you want to stop this, just come and stop the service and the service is stopped, right? And it'll actually tell you that the service is also stopped. You come down and its service is stopped and the port will also stop responding. So this application will also go away. If you want to start, just come and start this again. And let's see whether the application starts again. And let's wait for some time for the interpreter to come up, right? So in the entire process, just ensure that your prerequisites in terms of your JDK is there. You are able to open the command prompt with an admin user, and you are able to create a service, post which you can check the methods, whether they are running or not, right? Now, after we did start stop, let's go back and check whether the service is loaded or not. We just do a reload over here. It's automatically reloading. It would take initial some time for the interpreter to come up. Once that is done, if this file loads again, you're good to go. Yep, it's up, and you can click this in methods again. Let's go and check load prop, and the property file loads, get flowmaster config, and flowmaster config loads. So yeah, this was more about how do you launch IWInterpreter as a Windows service without the need of a Tomcat. So stay tuned for more upcoming videos on interpreter and how do you install interpreter as a Tomcat as a website on Tomcat as a WAR file, and what are the important property files and keys in the property file in the IWInterpreter property file. So that's about it for this video.